The following program is paid for by the Charlie Butler team.
Good Sunday morning, Tri-State. This is the Charlie Butler Real Estate Show. I'm Charlie Butler, and David, I say Dave before I ever even introduce him, the regional director from Churchill Mortgage, and my co-host, David Crow. How's it going, David?
Good morning. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Tri-State. I hope everybody's having a great Sunday morning out there.
Well, it's just you and I today. No offense to Bobby. He's over here, but
I'm here, but you don't want to hear this voice today. I'm struggling.
Are you struggling? You got cold?
I'm on the back side of it.
You sound a little stopped up.
Yeah. I feel okay. It's just my voice is gone.
Yeah. That's always the last thing, at least for me, like coughing and things like that. Once you feel better.
Oh, yeah.
But you still.
I sound worse than I feel.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. 'Tis the season.
Yep.
Yes.
Well, you still sound better than David or I. So
Amen.
Oh, come on now.
Amen.
So, David, it's just you and I today.
A lot of wisdom here.
That's it. We threw Candace out. No, Candace she's busy with clients, and she does a great job, but we miss her when she's here. When she's not here, we miss her when she's here. And again, we did last week, but again, congratulations to Candace on her engagement. She went a long time trying to find somebody.
Yeah. No, but she's going to love that out of you, Charlie.
I know. Yeah, and I know she'll listen.
A lot of sad guys out there. She's off the market now.
There are. Yeah.
She's spoken for.
I've got a client, and I can't say what he said he'd do to his wife if he could hook up with Candace. But
I can. For those who don't know, Candace is a attractive lady, to say the least.
Yes, she is.
She is.
Very much
Yeah.
so. Speaking of things, well, they're okay, but they're not as attractive as Candace.
Amen.
And I can't do Candace's thing on the rates, but
On the rates.
The rates.
The rates out there, folks.
Talk to us about the rates, David.
The rates are stable. That's probably the best thing I can say. It up a little bit one day.
It's kind of like somebody in the hospital when they say they're stable.
They're stable.
Well, they're going to live. Okay?
They're going to live. They're going to live. The reality for all of us, and the great thing about it is anything I say, people can Google it and see everything I'm discussing. Now they're going to see a lot of fraud. Yeah. Rates are not 4.99 without any cost associated with them. Those days are not upon us right now. So
our home builders, which I certainly don't blame them for advertising this at all.
Nope.
Whether it be 3.99 buy down or 4.99 number doesn't matter. They have to pay for that.
Oh, there's no free money out there.
And it's not free to them, which means it's probably not free to you either.
No, but the reality is, as long as properties sustain, property values hold, I assume it's a good deal for the home buyer. I know that when they're looking at builder incentives across the nation, honestly, any builder that's doing any type of volume has had to try to build in that discounted interest rate with their in-house lender, trying to get people to buy at today's prices because builders are paying more. I mean, materials, labor.
And I know both our two biggest volume builders, they both do it.
Oh, amen. Yes. Yeah.
Now, the luxury guys I can remember bringing it up to one of them, who was doing the $1 million houses, and he says, it's not my market.
It's not his market. No.
Yeah.
No, my buyer's either paying cash,
exactly,
or maybe a small mortgage,
or putting a huge down payment.
Yeah, that's doing a small mortgage, and then they're just they're not lured towards that. They're just give me the house at the best bottom line, best you can get it. That's what I want.
Yep.
And so no add-ons, no add-ins.
And as you know from your days on that side in the construction industry, those guys go through a lot more with those $1 million houses. Talk about demanding clients.
Yes, that we'll just be polite and say yes. Your volume builders pretty much lay out, here's what we offer, here's what you can get, here's the price, do you want it or not? And then they move forward with that set selections that they've used many times over. The true custom builder in our Southern Indiana, Western Kentucky market, you start talking about $1 million home, that's a custom build here locally.
Yes.
And so you are catering to the wants and desires of that particular buyer profile.
When my wife and I first moved over here 30-some years ago, it's a long time.
Long time.
Getting close to 40 now, I guess. We went with the first time I met Steve Dawson, who I got to know as a realtor.
Steve. Yeah.
Steve was working with Jago then.
Yes, he was way back then.
And this is when Eastland Estates was really hot. You know, and so we're looking over there and saw a plan that we really liked. Except I do not remember today what it was. My wife wants something a little bit different. There was nothing. They would not, you know,
not deviate 2 inches.
Nope. You took that, or you did, and we didn't. Which it turned out, I'm glad we didn't buy because we wind up doing better in the long run. But
that's the way it was. I think they're they're willing to modify and do things now.
I think so. Yeah,
they have been. It becomes more of a challenge. They finally built in and had the wherewithal to build in some quote unquote structural custom options. The challenge you have for most production builders is the size of the home site, the size of the lot. When they do the development, most production builders don't have excessive oversized home sites to build on. So when a customer starts talking about what we call bumping 1 foot, 2 foot, 4 foot left or right on a home site, the land won't hold the house. That's a challenge most production builders. And it's all driven through quote unquote lot density. Let's get as many homes in a neighborhood as we can and trying to make it as affordable as possible for housing for the home buyer. So it's a matrix you're always working with. But most of them, when things tighten up like they've had to, you have to start doing things differently and trying to meet those customer needs within reason.
Right.
So versus a custom builder where you're looking at a sprawling home site. Hey, what do you want to do? Left, right, front to back? Let's start, but it's all built into the price as well because they know they're going to spend a lot of time with that particular buyer.
So, excuse me. So, David, back on mortgages here for a second.
Yes.
And people, the regular listeners, and we'll explain a little bit for those that don't listen regularly. You've heard how the interest rates have been going down. You've three interest rate cuts. So David's going to tell you how low the rates are, but those that listen regularly know he's not. Okay? I mean, they're not bad. They're not, but it all gets back to, as we've said, the 10-year Treasury, which Mr. Buffett and others have bought a lot of.
A lot
more than the Federal Reserve owns, in fact.
Yep.
So, do you think it's a thing where they have to get back into the stock market and out of Treasury to bring this price on Treasuries down?
Hopefully so.
They're still huge.
I was going to say, and Charlie, that's a great question. And as somebody says, that's above my pay grade. I'm not going to say. David Crow sitting here in Evansville, Indiana, Western Kentucky, trying to say what Warren Buffett should be doing with his money. I'm not the guy.
We're guessing right now, okay? But he's always been, if you look at his history, he's a value buyer.
Yes.
He'll buy very good companies when they're on the downside.
Yes.
Sirius XM right now, for example.
Yep.
Buying the heck out of it. And he's rarely wrong.
His track record's proven he's been right more than he's been wrong.
It's crazy. But anyway, and I know this is about both our pay grades, but it would make, I'm just saying what common sense makes sense. If he starts seeing stocks have went down. So, we had a great year. S&P's up 20%.
I was going to say, even though we kind of ended the year on some bumps and so forth, year over year. Let's look at the last 3 years. It's been awesome.
It's been crazy.
Yes,
but and this, David and I, and Candace always stay away from politics. But one of the things I think that is happening now with going to be a change in administration, and they're talking a lot about tariffs, and and the stock market does not react well to that.
No.
As we know.
As far as the analytics, the pre-programming, the artificial intelligence, all those things that are going on when you plug that information in, the way it automatically buys and sells and moves stuff around, no, it doesn't. It doesn't like disruptions.
And I have to admit, as a realtor, and this would translate to you too. If we have a 30% tariff on Canada, like what they're talking about, that's going to hurt us because of all the lumber that comes from.
Yep.
So anyone that's dealing with new construction, that's going to hurt.
There's no question the challenge we have being on the outside looking in is how much of this will actually come to fruition, how much of it is a negotiating ploy, especially when you've got, we're talking about Trump and Elon Musk in the mix of this conversation. So you don't know how much is really going to happen or how much is going to be more of a threat to allow other things to happen. I don't know. And let me tell you, there's people smarter than you and I, Charlie. They don't know either exactly what's getting ready to happen.
That's why treasuries are high right now.
They're high.
That's one of the reasons.
And which is really just holding. I hate to say it, but holding rates just status quo. I mean, if you've gotten maybe back in September, the first, very beginning of September, I was definitely every lender in the nation. You had lenders that were, including myself, that had par rates that were in the upper fives. Mm-hmm. Okay. We had some buyers that were qualifying in the upper fives. Those days are not with us right now. And as we said last week on the last episode, the beautiful thing is technically rates ended 2024 lower than they actually were in, end of February, March, April, first part of May of 2024. So the good thing is rates actually went down nationwide in 2024. So that's a good thing.
Right, and that's a good thing.
We just anticipated they were going to go a lot lower and stay there, and unfortunately they didn't do that. So I think most lenders on par rates, including myself, people call me all the time and say, where's your rate? Okay. First thing is there is no A rate. No. All right. No. There's too many variables that every borrower, their file is taken into consideration to get a rate. They'll see an advertised rate, but then all the stars have to align to, quote unquote, get that particular rate that may be advertised. So we have to take a look, but rates are less than they were a year ago, which is a good thing. We just hope by the second half of 2025, they're considerably less. But the reality is there's no guarantees on that.
Well, David, and what you're talking about the some of the mortgage brokers that advertise things that make. I learned this from the hard way. Guys would come in to our office or whatever. If you got anybody with bad credit, we can get 520s done. Now this is after.
Yes.
This is after when we could get 520s really done. But anyway, they would come in and just in the last year, we can get a 520 done. And you'd send them stuff. Well, something always happened.
Always.
And finally, I asked one of them, "How many 520s have you done?" Never.
No.
Never done one.
No. I am blessed that at Churchill, and I can say this because you're asking how many. First part of December, I had a gentleman, 581 credit score. We went FHA. Only required 3.5% down payment. He had some unfortunate things that had happened in somewhat recent past. A good client. I closed him on his home at 581. And so I tell people I can technically go down to 580. There may be people advertising lower than 580, but Charlie, something always comes up.
Yeah, the question to ask if you're a realtor out there or a home buyer that's just dealing directly with a lender, ask them how many of those they've closed.
Yes. And at the end of the day, I've been in this for over 20 years. I'm going to be in another 20 years. I love helping people. I don't want to put somebody in a situation that it's not a blessing. I mean, I can't control overall job loss, but there are some folks you can just realize they're trying to buy more home than they can afford at this point in time. And they don't have a big income in the future on their immediate horizon. But no, 580 is great that I have that opportunity. And I can also say in December I closed a 581 is what his credit score was.
David, as you know, back pre-08, and that's not what we're talking about.
No, we're not, folks.
400s, it really didn't matter. It didn't matter. And I have sat there at closings looking at what we call the HUD back then, the settlement statement. HUD 1. And you're saying to yourself, these people are going to get foreclosed on. And you looked at the numbers and you did the math real quick in your head and you're thinking, there's no way.
No.
There's no way.
No.
You know, you see people. I've seen people, and one of them is still in their house. It's a big house. 3 mortgages back at the day at closing.
At closing. Folks, this is not our world today. This is also when people keep asking Charlie and I, when's the housing bust going to happen?
Exactly.
When's that bubble going to burst out there? Yeah. And folks, it's not. Okay. Now, I'm not going to say that if companies were to do massive layoffs and people were challenged to make their payments, the underwriting guidelines we're all held to is what is going to allow people to truly be able to afford their homes. The days Charlie is speaking of, I'm going to say this on the lending side. The amount of, God help us, the amount of fraud and theft and the fees that could be added to somebody's mortgage, hypothetically getting a $200,000 mortgage and the lender added in there an extra $15,000 in commission just for them to push the mortgage out. The level that people did not understand and the amount of fraud, deception, misleading which occurred, which led us to Dodd-Frank in 2010 to change all that.
And it was huge. I mean, it was incredible, the stuff.
And it was normal.
Yeah, I went. Yeah,
normal.
I remember I went on vacation. I was fairly new in the business. This is late '90s probably, and maybe early 2000s. But come back, and I had a client, and they were meeting, and they're not around anymore. The Mortgage Connection, and
a lot of them not around anymore.
Not around anymore. Yeah, and so they said, "Oh, they've already pre-approved us." Great. They said they could. We were good enough. They could do it for 10 points.
10 points.
And you're sitting there thinking, "What?" And I said, I there are other lenders. We're really happy with that. And guys were good. Those guys, they were good at selling it too.
So are timeshare salesmen.
Exactly.
They are awesome salespeople.
Exactly.
They are truly awesome.
Yeah.
That's some of your best salespeople in the world.
They
right
bring
there.
them a nice closing gift.
Oh,
and everything.
my God. What Charlie's talking about when he says 1 point for those listening, that's 1 percentage point of the loan amount.
So that's 10% of the loan amount.
Yes. And so, if keeping math easy, $100,000 loan, that's just $10,000 in points. That back then, that may have incorporated some of the closing costs. Today, when we talk in terms of points, whether it's 1, 2, or 3, it's prepaid interest to just buy the rate down at this point, and it's not the closing cost. It's just, but those days did occur, and there
was a mortgage broker on every corner. Basically,
it was
were everywhere.
easy.
Of course, they didn't have to have a license.
Oh no, yeah, exactly. Just like me, I had to be licensed. I had to take a national exam test that when you take it. I think it's 52% of all people in the United States takes the test I had to take. They fail it the first time. And then when they try to go back and take it the second time, I think the fail rate even jumps up to like 60 some odd percent on their second attempt. Now, we're saying that because that's a minimum threshold now to do what I do as a mortgage lender. Now, if I work at some of our local banks, they're not required to.
Right.
But back then, no one was licensed. It was the Wild Wild West.
It was totally the Wild West. And I can even remember sending a bad credit person to a lender I regularly used, who's still around, and it's not his fault. He's a good lender, and he called me. He said, "This one I can't do," but he said, "Don't worry about it." He said, "I'm sending it to blank,
another company,
and just don't ask any questions."
Amen. And folks, we're actually reminiscing about things that do not exist in 2025,
and they really don't. And we probably should pay some bills instead of talk about this.
All right.
Brought the Charlie Butler Real Estate Show, brought to you by Churchill Mortgage, which David Crow is the regional director. And Churchill, for those of you that listen to GBF AM all the time, or listen to Dave Ramsey at least, I should say, Churchill is probably getting close to 30 years now.
It is. Now that we're in 2025, I know we've been over, Dave Ramsey's endorsed Churchill Mortgage for over 28 years. I always said that in 2024. So we got to be getting close to 29 years that Dave has told millions of listeners daily to call his good friends at Churchill Mortgage. And folks, if you're sitting here in Kentucky, sitting here in Indiana, you're listening, and you need a home loan, I'm your Churchill Mortgage guy.
How do they get a hold of you, David?
Easiest way, give me a call, give me a text, 270-222-0676, or you can look up churchillmortgage.com, and you'll see the branch is technically based out of Owensboro, Kentucky, servicing Kentucky and Indiana. So I'm right on the Ohio River.
Yes, and also, and certainly nothing against the Churchill Mortgage folks in Brentwood, Tennessee, that when Dave gives the 800 number out, those are good people down there. But if you want local service, call David. David will do a great job for you, and also the good folks at Bossy Title. For all your, whether it be search needs, it's, a lot of people don't realize it, but the title company, David, is really important in this whole transaction.
Charlie, not to expand, and we'll just say this. I had I mentioned it last week, and I kind of bring it up. I had a closing that I was clear to close over 2 weeks in advance, and we thought we were closing. And the title company called and said, we can't close. I said, what's going on? We've got a challenge with the seller. I said, what's going on? And I won't go on the radio, all the details, but one of the variables is the seller agreed to sell the house for less money than they should have due to a divorce decree that required certain payoffs from the seller side at closing. And the title company helped coordinate this, but ultimately the seller had to go back to court. This is in Vanderbilt County.
Oh, wow.
Get the divorce decree amended, lowering the amount of payoffs, the dollar amount, so that ultimately the seller could close. And there was another issue with the seller. Thankfully, that closing did occur right at Friday, December 27th. Got them in, and we did close. But that was a loan that I easily could have closed. I think it was our initial discussion was like, hey, we're closing, I think, December 6th. And it was on the 5th. We get a phone call and said, we have a problem. And I said, what? My folks are great. What's going on? It's a seller. And they couldn't provide clear title. They couldn't close. They were going to have to bring cash to the closing table. And they were able to expedite getting their divorce decree amended. And so that's not something you see every day as a realtor or lender.
No, you do not.
No. So, title companies are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And they make sure everybody walks away solid and whole from a closing.
Because in Indiana, as I'm sure it is in both states, you got to have clear and marketable title.
Amen. Absolutely.
And that's the way you would want it. And,
yes.
And folks like the people at Bossy Title make sure that happens. And so you can reach them at area code 812-421-4000. That's 812-421-4000 for Bossy Title.
Well, Charlie, I got a question for you.
Yes, David.
And folks, Charlie helps lead, guide, and direct us on here. But I think you should expand just a little bit and share with listeners. If you were to list their home or talk to them, that ultimately you can potentially buy their home from them to expedite the process. Yes. I think you ought to share with people what you and your team have to offer there.
Well, I appreciate that, David. And one of the things you hear it on the radio. Bobby gets to hear about us every hour, actually, on WJLT. So don't Bobby. The people on KDQ have it worse. So
they have to endure you a little bit more than we do.
Yeah, because they got the Gary LaVox endorsements in the middle. Too,
I see. Gotcha. Yeah, we play a little Gary LaVox when we do your weather sponsorship.
Right. You've got the weather, but then they've got other spots.
Okay, gotcha.
So, anyway, So yeah, David, if obviously we're going to get the most money for you if we list your house.
Yes.
We right now probably getting, I think last I looked, 97 to 98% asking price.
That's correct.
And during COVID, of course, it was over 100% for us. But that's that's
it's like talking pre-08. There's some things they're fun stories, but they're not reality.
They're great stories. But so probably it's somewhere between 97 and 98% of of your asking price. If you're in a situation where you have to sell your home for whatever reason, life happens, as we say, and we will buy your home. We have a large group of investors that's what they do, and they'll basically make you an offer. We say within 48 hours. I've seen them make an offer while they're standing there, and so now we want to be 100% transparent. When we list your house, we're going full retail. We're going to try. Yes. We're going to try to get the most money we can get. Now, if we buy your house, it's going to be a wholesale price.
Yes,
because the people who are investing in this, they want to make money, and so they're not not being flip about it, but they're not doing it for their health.
Nope.
And none of us do. We're not.
No.
And
but Charlie, you and I've ran into situations. Some people just, for whatever reason, they're scared of the selling process.
Yes.
And what I always tell people is translate it to automobiles. Okay. If you take your time and you try to put your car out there on Facebook or wherever, you can probably sell for more. But most people will drive into a lot and they'll do a quote unquote trade in. Well, the dealer is not giving you retail for your automobile. They're giving you wholesale.
Yeah.
But you're getting a quick sale, you're getting cash in your pocket, and you're able to move on with life. And the same thing, whether it's an automobile and a house, I've seen the same thing. They just want to sell. And for those people that may have owned their home for 10, 20 years, it may be paid for. They're happy with what the wholesale price is, and they're just ready to get on with life. And they're making enough money on the situation. They're content. They're happy. Your investor's happy. Does it happen with every person out there? God, no.
No.
But, but that's just life as well, whether it's an automobile or it's a house. So you're just providing a service that many other people don't provide that service as an alternative.
Yeah, and you're right, David. The majority of the people, they list their house. I mean, when we're able to sit down and explain to them, and actually they see how much less they're going to get if it's a nice house or if it's an average house. As I always tell people, 95% of the homes, if they don't sell right away anymore, it's price or condition. I
totally agree.
It's one of those two things. Yeah. Now, unless we can't talk about neighborhoods, but unless you're in an exceptionally bad neighborhood, which we don't have very many of those.
That plays in the condition situation.
It really does.
Conversation.
But in places like Evansville, Henderson, Owensboro, we don't have much of that.
No.
So if your home's setting, it's probably price or condition. Because as a realtor, there's a lot of times we go in, people say, what do we need to do? Well, first thing they need to declutter, because they've got a lot of clutter. And Bobby has cluttered my mind by telling me that there's 1 minute left. And so call us, and we'll let you know. Just call me at 812-499-7758, or I think it's of our 14 team members at 812-430-1708, and we'll come out. We'll sit down and let you know what we can do and what we can't do. We're just going to be very, very honest with you. So, David, real quick before Bobby throws us out, how can they get a hold of you?
Well, folks, when you're ready to buy and you want to get pre-approved and take advantage of one of Charlie's listings, just give me a call, give me a text, 270-222-0676, and I'd be happy to get you pre-approved. Get you out there on the streets looking at homes, knowing what you can buy.
There we go. And David does a great job. So, Bobby, it's time to go. All right. Bobby is, I don't know why he doesn't just tell LaDon, look, they're going to go as long as they want to go. You make the big bucks, Bobby. Come on.
I can't tell her a thing, I promise.
So, LaDon is the area president for Town Square that you sometimes hear us kid about. But for David Crow, Bobby Gates, this is Charlie Butler. Have a great Sunday.
This program has been paid for by the Charlie Butler team. From the Kate Foppel Ford Studios, this is Newstalk 1280 WGBF.